Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is once again publicly scolding the Trump administration. Greene joined Tucker Carlson on his YouTube show Wednesday and brought up the financial support that the president is providing to Argentina.
Earlier this month, the White House authorized a $20 billion agreement to help stabilize Argentina's struggling economy. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the U.S. is looking to provide an additional $20 billion for the South American country. MTG says she does not understand why Trump is doing this.
Let's take, for example, this $40 billion bailout for Argentina. That's probably one of the grossest things I've ever seen. And I have no idea who is telling our great president, our America First president, that this is a good idea. Because it's a punch in the gut to all of our American cattle ranchers, and they are furious, and rightfully so. And at the same time, I can't think of another country that's further away from the United States of America than Argentina. It's literally at the bottom of South America in the Southern Hemisphere, and we're all the way up here at the top. I don't know how that's America First.
As she mentioned, farmers and ranchers are expressing outrage over Trump's plan. In addition to the financial assistance, Trump also wants to start importing more beef from Argentina as a means of making beef cheaper in the U.S. But American farmers argue this move will hurt their business and won't make prices cheaper in the long run. John Boyd, founder of the National Black Farmers Association, recently told Newsweek, quote, "We are at an all-time low for beef production in the U.S., and Trump is helping Argentina cattlemen first. I hope farmers have learned a lesson. You can't trust Trump."
Trump, of course, is defending the decision, writing earlier this week on Truth Social, "The cattle ranchers, who I love, don't understand that the only reason they are doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on cattle coming into the United States, including a 50% tariff on Brazil. If it weren't for me, they would be doing just as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. It would be nice if they would understand that, but they also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also."
While on the topic of giving financial aid to other countries, MTG again called for America to stop supporting Israel. She says she's been attacked on her social media for her stance, but she isn't budging.
If you're wondering why people are talking about primarying me, well, it's because I don't take any money from AIPAC. I've called for AIPAC to be registered under FARA. I've introduced amendments to defund all of our American tax dollars from going to Israel every single year, billions and billions of dollars every single year. But I've also done that for a slew of other countries. It's not just Israel. It's a whole bunch of other countries, Egypt, Ukraine, you name it. I'm just like, enough of the foreign aid.
I mean, why doesn't Marjorie Taylor Greene just become an independent? I mean, I know it was like a thing where MAGA, we will say, doesn't mind arguing within about different ways to handle policy and kind of want to get to the same end game. But this just feels like a breakaway. I mean, the health insurance thing was the biggest recent break that I was like, oh, wow, she's siding with the Dems without saying it. And then Epstein, obviously. But this is, another thing where she's like, and her stance is always America first for the most part. When she breaks away, it's like, how does this fit in with America first? And she explained that very well. But at this point, she doesn't like pretty much a majority of the bulk of big decisions that the president is making. And she's blaming his advisors. Like, who's advising him? I mean, the buck stops with him. If she doesn't want to say that she doesn't agree with Trump for some reason, I know why. Not for some reason. Most people are nervous to do that because President Trump is not the kindest person when you slight him. But it's just interesting about where she's going. I do want to talk about Argentinian beef, but I didn't know if you had a thought about that.
Yeah, we've been talking to some political consultants and people sort of close to Marjorie Taylor Greene and involved in this upcoming re-election bid. And their point generally was that on the big issues, which I don't consider the Epstein files a big issue when it comes to what most Americans care about. She is certainly more aligned with Trump and MAGA than she is with the Democrats. Even on the healthcare question, it's more about making sure that people are getting Medicaid as opposed to continuing the Obamacare subsidies. But nonetheless, on all of these cultural, social issues, the idea that she would ever caucus with the Democrats on things like, gender affirming care is ridiculous, right?
That's why I said independent.
She's a very Republican person. I find that very, very unlikely. But I will also say, when I look back at when she first came into Congress, people really didn't take her seriously. She obviously had this weird online posting history, which she apologized for. But at the time, I did a profile on her for The Spectator, and I sat down with her in her office, and I talked to her for, 30 minutes, an hour. And I predicted that she was going to be a mega star in the Republican Party. And, you know, I hate to say I told you so, but
You should say I told you so.
right.
It's a store for sure.
I was right. I saw something, and I don't often take credit for things like that. But I'm going to take
You
credit
are very
now.
modest, so yeah, that means you must have you called it.
I did. I called it. But yeah, I think, look, she's a really interesting person. Her, Thomas Massie, have been thorns in the side of the Trump administration on some issues, obviously very aligned on others. And as you mentioned, I think that's part of the beauty of the modern Republican Party is that they are willing to have these debates, even if they happen publicly. I think it's wise for Trump to respond the way he has with MTG versus Thomas Massie, which is to kind of let her do her thing, because promising to primary Massie, which never seems to work. People have been trying to do it for the past 4 elections. It gives it more attention and more life, I think, if you try to go hard on them. Like, just let them do their thing and they'll come back in the fold, right?
Yeah. Now, talking about this Argentina situation with the beef, I think that President Trump has to look inwards about how his policies have already hurt American farmers. So the trade war with China, you know that has a connection to soybean sales, and that's hit farmers in a major way, and they've been complaining about that. And now cattle ranchers are seeing this as another kind of jab to them. Some people called it a, quote, slap in the face. And I think, you know, the real problem from what I read and understand is that the meat packers, not the actual ranchers. So when you talk about calling outside beef to bring the prices down here, that won't solve the biggest problem. The big problem is that there's 4 major meat packing companies that control 80% of the beef market. Those companies are like Tyson, Cargill, right? So they paid they paid like more than $90 million to settle a price fixing case in recent years. And so when you're importing international beef, you know, it won't fix the manipulation that's happening by these big major companies or monopolies or however you would call them. I just think that just further hurts ranchers and farmers. And so, again, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I agree with, who is advising him here, because there are people that are actual farmers that not only have the soybeans to complain about, now they have this and the beef issue to complain about, but then some of them were also complaining about the immigration policies. So it's like, well, this middle of America, these people that, you know, came out and you know, President Trump argued, like, I got all the swing states, I got all this middle of America, I got everybody who was already Republican even firmer into the Republican Party. Well, you can't leave them behind. And those people are feeling kind of unseen right now.
Yeah, it's a very complicated issue, because one of the reasons why food prices are up is because of the beef prices. That's a huge component of it. And it is certainly partially because of the monopolization of the meatpacking industry. This is something I've been covering for years, actually. JBS, which is a Brazilian company, had been accused of all kinds of fraud and money laundering schemes, and was basically given a pass by the U.S. government multiple times because of how much of a stake that they have in the industry, even when they were literally importing rotten meat to the U.S.
Crazy.
It's a mess. But there's also an issue with smaller herds, which is partially lingering effects from the pandemic, but also because of the year-long drought that they've been facing. So there's simply not enough cattle in the United States to satisfy the demand for beef from consumers. And so I could see the reasoning for perhaps a short-term importation policy from Argentina, but overall, the idea of giving $40 billion to bail out another country's economy really rubs me the wrong way. And I'm 100% with MTG on that issue. That is not America first. And so there has to be some way to balance the shortages of beef in the U.S. without just giving a handout to a foreign country without anything really in return for the cattlemen.
Right. Agreed. We agree on that point.
All right. Next up, Maine Senate candidate Graham Plattner is maintaining strong support despite controversy over an alleged Nazi tattoo. We'll be right back with more on that.